What's up, YouTube? So today's video is going to be about, should you carry a safety, or should you have a safety on your carry gun? Now, my short answer is no. I don't do it. It's a hell nah for me, but I'm going to tell you how I came to that conclusion, and you can make your own decisions based on the information in this video. So just to give you a quick synopsis of what we'll be going over manual safeties, which is something that you have to intentionally actuate with your thumb or some sort of button that you may need to press. And then we'll be going over various internal or mechanical safeties that guns typically have in general, which do not require you to consciously flip any switch or anything like that. So in order to demonstrate my points, I have a few pistols out in front of me. You can't see them. I'll show them to you one at a time. All guns that I'll be showing you are clear, and they will kind of demonstrate some of the different safety features of modern firearms. So before we go any further, make sure you like this video, comment your thoughts below. Let me know if you carry a safety on your carry gun yourself. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit that notification bell ASAP. Okay, let's get into it. Now, before we do, full disclosure, when I first started carrying guns, I absolutely carried guns with a safety. I was not necessarily comfortable carrying, especially when I started carrying with a round in the chamber without a manual safety. So don't think I'm shitting on you if you're a new shooter. I totally understand the need or the want to carry with a safety for your own peace of mind. Don't ever underplay that. You carry with what you feel comfortable with. Now let's get into why I don't carry with a manual safety, and to give you some demonstrations, I'm going to show you some of my guns. These are going to be 3 examples of manual safeties on the guns that I own. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. This is the OG, not the new double stack version. So if y'all got that, slide it my way. But check this out. We have an empty chamber and an empty magazine on that. The gun is clear. So this is one example of a manual safety here. You see this switch down here that's somewhat recessed in the frame. This is a great manual safety. Reason being, it has a low profile. It doesn't get snagged on anything. You have to be intentional to turn it on and off. Right now it's in the off position. It's lowered. And I can rub my hand across there all day long. It's not going to turn on. And if I turn it on, I can do the same thing, and it's not going to accidentally turn off. So this is one example of a manual safety. I have another one on my PPKS, and to show you, we have an empty magazine here and a clear chamber on this as well. Now this is an example of a hammer fire gun, which has a safety here, a little bit slightly larger than the Smith & Wesson Shield, but nonetheless, you know, it's pretty hard to accidentally activate that, or in this case, deactivate it. So these are 2 examples of manual safeties that I have to say, if you're gonna carry safety, I'm actually a fan of those 2. I do like those 2. Now here's an example of why I stopped carrying manual safeties. And this gun, the Smith & Wesson M&P 9C, you'll see there's no safety on it now, but this gun, when I first got it, had a safety on it, and it was trash. Absolute trash, the worst. It had like 2 bird wings sticking out. And so you can get a visual, I'm gonna show a picture of what that safety looks like now. And as you can see, that safety is rather wide, easy to turn on and off accidentally if you're drawing from concealment. If it hits your belt, your jeans, your pants, a coat, accidentally your hand, it was easy to activate that safety on accident. And that's a big deal, because if you need to present your firearm and use it in a self-defense situation, you do not want to accidentally turn the safety on and then you can't fire your first round. So the Smith & Wesson 9C is an example of a safety I am not a fan of, and you can see it's no longer on there. I removed it, and you'll see the little rectangle back there where I plugged it up. Smith & Wesson sent me the gear to remove it. There's some videos online, but that is an example of a manual safety I'm not a fan of. All right, so now that you've seen some guns with manual safeties, let's get into some examples of guns without manual safeties and why I still consider them to be incredibly safe guns. So first and foremost, representing for our hammer fire guns, we got my baby 380 Ruger LCP Custom, and as you can see, empty chamber, empty magazine. And the reason why I consider this to be a safe gun in the way it's designed is because it is a double action pistol. Now what that means is the hammer back here is recessed, you can't see it now, but the hammer requires you to pull it. As you pull the trigger, the hammer comes back and comes forward in the same trigger pull. So those are the two actions, cocking the hammer and then releasing the hammer. And because it's a double action and those two actions have to happen, the trigger pull is extremely lengthy and it requires a lot of pressure. It's not a light trigger whatsoever. So like, you know, I used to pocket carry this thing. I had no questions about it going off or something snagging the trigger. If you do that, you know, the trigger is not gonna go back if it snags or something like that. You have to be very intentional and apply a lot of pressure to pull this trigger back. Now I'm gonna show you visually, like I said, this hammer is recessed. So I'm gonna show you so you can see kind of behind it, that hammer there. And I'm gonna pull the trigger so you can see the two actions. So I'm beginning to pull it now. You'll probably see the hammer going back. And as I keep pulling it, the hammer will release and go forward. So that in and of itself is kind of acts as like a built-in mechanical safety for the trigger or for the gun. Next up, I got my trusty dusty P365. You see, empty chamber, empty magazine. This is my current carry. Absolutely love this gun. And I'm just gonna show you one of the features on this gun in particular. And to do that, I'm going to load one dummy round into the firearm. Now, I'm gonna load it off camera because I don't want YouTube to have a heart attack. So now that that's loaded up, what I'm gonna show you is the peephole that is basically machined into the back of the barrel. Many guns have this. The two Smith & Wessons I showed you previously and the Ruger LCP I just showed you have this same thing as well. So basically what it is this little peephole right here to the back of the barrel where you can see the round in the chamber. Now hopefully you see a little bit of orange there. I'll move it around. Just kind of reflecting, showing you that yeah, there is in fact a round in the chamber. And just so you can confirm, there's our dummy round there, and you should be able to see it through that peephole. So that's one kind of safety feature built into the P365 and many other modern handguns today as well. And the last gun I'm going to show you is the VP9 SK by HK. You see, we got an empty chamber, empty magazine on this as well. And this gun is really one of my safest pistols that I own, and it has no manual safety, and yet I still consider it one of my safest pistols that I own. And reason being, there's a plethora of internal safeties, external mechanical safeties built into this firearm. So first, and I'm showing you these because, you know, a lot of these safeties are on other guns as well, other modern firearms. So first and foremost, there's a loaded chamber indicator on the side. The chamber's not currently loaded, but right here, if it was, there's a little thing that sticks out right there that just shows a slight red line to let the shooter know, hey, there is in fact a round in the chamber. Additionally, towards the rear of the gun at the base plate, we have a striking pin indicator, which essentially just shows the striking pin is in the rear position and is ready to go. So hopefully you can pick that up on camera. Towards the back of the base plate, right there in the center, you see the red circle. And when I pull that trigger and drop that firing pin, it goes away. So that's just another internal safety feature built into the gun just to let you know, hey, whether the striking pin is ready to go or not. Additionally, we have a trigger safety. which is basically like a two-part trigger where both parts have to be pressed in order for the trigger to move fully rearward. Again, you know, both the Smith & Wessons I showed you earlier have their version of this. Glock has this version called a safe action trigger. And basically, if I press the outside of the trigger, it's not gonna go back. And you'll see here in the center, there's like a little lever there that I need to press that center piece in order to get the trigger to go back entirely. So I press the center piece, then I press the entire trigger, and it will go back. If I just press the outside, it will not. So that's just another way to kind of prevent snags, or when you put it in the holster or it brushes up against something, preventing accidental pulling of the trigger. So the last couple things I'm gonna go over with this gun in particular are the internal safeties. Now you can't see those, they're built on the inside of the gun, but it has a firing pin block, which prevents the firing pin from moving. And it has a sear catch, which essentially holds the firing pin in place and then allows it to shoot forward and strike the primer of the bullet. Now, both of those in combination kind of prevent the firing pin from moving back and forth, moving at all. And that's what makes this gun drop safe. If you drop it and there's a round in the chamber, that firing pin's not going anywhere, that round's not going off. I don't recommend dropping guns with rounds in the chamber, but if you did, there you go. So the only way to undo that firing pin block or that sear catch is to pull the trigger. And like I said, the trigger, you have to be relatively intentional about pulling it because it's a two-part safety trigger. So when you pull that trigger, then in the process of doing that, it will undo those two internal safeties and the gun will fire. Now, because of all that, I find this gun to be incredibly safe while still not having a manual safety. So saying all to say, that's how I came to the conclusion that I came to. I don't like carrying guns with manual safeties. It's just another thing to think about. You know, if you're using your gun in a high stress situation, you want to pull it out, you want to be ready to go. You don't want to be thinking, oh, I got to drop the safety first, because if you forget that, well, then your first round's not going to go off. Who knows? You might end up dead. Hopefully not. With that being said, another thing that can happen also is just snags. Like I told you earlier with my Smith & Wesson 9C, you might accidentally snag and put the safety on when you don't mean to, or vice versa. So that's why I recommend not having a manual safety on your gun. With that being said, I get it. If you're a new shooter or you're not comfortable with that, I totally understand that. I totally get it. When I first started carrying, I carried a gun with a safety, I think with the safety on, and no round in the chamber. So like that was about as safe as you can be, possibly. And I worked my way up to the point where I could carry with a round in the chamber. I felt comfortable with that. I still had the safety on. And eventually I made it to the point where I would carry with a live round in the chamber and there would be no manual safeties at all on the gun I was carrying at the time. So that's where I recommend you get to. If you're not there yet, I'm not shitting on you at all. The main thing is you need to be comfortable and proficient with your firearm. Don't let anyone pressure you into doing something that you're not ready to do. Don't be negligent, because if you are, that gives all of us gun owners a bad name, and you don't want to hurt yourself or someone you love. So do what you're comfortable with first and foremost. These are just my recommendations. So make sure you like the video if you learned something. Comment below whether you carry with a manual safety or just some of the internal mechanical safeties that your firearm is built with. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Don't forget, come and take it if you're about that action. And I'll see you on the next one.